Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking and significant developments in the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia, Ukraine's surprise strike that rocked the Crimean Bridge. This event has not only captured global attention, but also sent ripples through the strategic and political landscape of the entire region. The bridge has long been a symbol of Russia's control over Crimea, but this latest attack has once again shown how fragile that control can be. The Crimean Bridge, also known as the Kerch Bridge, has stood as a powerful emblem of Russia's annexation of Crimea since it was completed in 2018. Stretching 19 kilometers across the Kerch Strait, it connects the Russian mainland with the occupied peninsula. For Russia, it's more than just infrastructure, it's a symbol of permanence, of the belief that Crimea is now part of Russia forever. For Ukraine, it's a symbol of occupation and defiance, a reminder of land taken and a target of strategic importance. On the morning of June 3, 2025 at around 4:44 a.m. local time, explosions rocked the bridge. Ukrainian officials later confirmed that the attack was planned and executed by the Security Service of Ukraine, known as the SBU. The operation reportedly involved underwater explosives targeting the bridge's support structures. Ukrainian sources claimed that roughly 100 kilograms of TNT equivalent explosives were used, placed strategically to inflict maximum structural damage. The operation, they said, was months in the making, a testament to patience, precision, and planning. Russia's response, however, was immediate and dismissive. Russian officials claimed that while there had been an explosion, the bridge sustained no serious damage and traffic would resume shortly. Yet satellite images, eyewitness videos, and multiple independent sources suggested at least partial structural impact. The bridge was closed temporarily for inspection, halting both civilian and military transport. Even a few hours of disruption is significant when that route supplies Russian forces in occupied southern Ukraine. This isn't the first time Ukraine has struck the Crimean Bridge. The first attack came in October 2022, when a truck bomb detonated on the roadway, killing several people and damaging the structure severely enough to force partial closures for months. The second major strike was in July 2023, involving naval drones that damaged the road section again. But this latest one in 2025 stands out for its sophistication. Instead of hitting the surface, Ukraine went below, targeting the underwater foundations, something much harder to defend or repair. Strategically, this move makes perfect sense for Ukraine. The bridge serves as Russia's main logistics artery, connecting its southern military front to the mainland. Every piece of ammunition, every supply convoy, and every reinforcement heading toward occupied Kherson or Zaporizhia often relies on that bridge. Damaging it, even temporarily, disrupts supply lines and forces Russia to reroute through the occupied land corridor in southeastern Ukraine, which is longer and more vulnerable to attack. Symbolically, the strike carries even more weight. The Crimean Bridge has been one of Vladimir Putin's proudest projects. He personally inaugurated it, driving a truck across the span during its opening ceremony. Its destruction or even partial damage is not just an engineering loss, it's a psychological blow. It tells both Russians and Ukrainians that Moscow's control over Crimea isn't untouchable. It shows that Ukraine can strike deep behind enemy lines and hit one of Russia's most protected assets. From a tactical standpoint, the strike demonstrates Ukraine's growing technological capability and intelligence sophistication. Underwater operations of this scale are incredibly complex, requiring not only advanced explosives, but also precise timing, placement, and coordination. It also hints at Ukraine's evolving use of sea drones and naval special forces, likely with intelligence support from Western allies. The Kerch Strait is heavily monitored by Russian forces, so carrying out such an operation undetected would have required careful planning and possibly months of reconnaissance. Russia's military command has likely been forced to reassess its defensive posture around Crimea. After this strike, they will increase underwater surveillance, add sonar detection systems, and reinforce bridge supports. But doing so comes at a cost: time, manpower, and resources that could otherwise go toward front-line operations. This is part of Ukraine's broader goal: to stretch Russia's military capacity thin across multiple fronts. For civilians in Crimea, the strike has created uncertainty and tension. Reports indicate that long lines formed at gas stations and supermarkets immediately after the explosion, as residents feared possible isolation from the mainland. Even if the bridge wasn't fully destroyed, the psychological effect was powerful. People began worrying about evacuation routes, supply shortages, and whether Ukraine's counteroffensive might soon reach Crimea itself. On the international stage, reactions were mixed. Western allies praised Ukraine's boldness and strategic precision, while emphasizing the legitimacy of striking military infrastructure in occupied territory. Russia predictably condemned the act as terrorism, accusing Ukraine of targeting civilian infrastructure. This framing battle over whether the bridge is a civilian or military target has played out since the war's early years. In reality, the bridge serves both functions, but its military significance makes it a valid wartime target under international law. The immediate consequences for Russia include logistical delays, morale damage, and another embarrassing symbol of vulnerability. Even if the damage is repairable, every strike deep into Russian controlled territory erodes the image of invincibility that Moscow tries to maintain. It also pressures the Kremlin to retaliate, often through missile strikes on Ukrainian cities, as we've seen in past cycles of escalation. Ukraine's leadership, on the other hand, has been quick to frame this as a strategic victory. President Volodymyr Zelensky's government has emphasized that such operations are part of Ukraine's broader effort to reclaim its territory and weaken Russia's military capability. The SBU and Ukraine's military intelligence have signaled that more operations of this kind may follow, hinting that the Crimean Bridge could remain a recurring target until it's rendered unusable. Beyond the immediate military impact, there's the question of what this strike means for the future of the conflict. It reinforces a central truth: wars are as much about logistics as they are about combat. By hitting key transport and supply nodes, Ukraine aims to make the occupation of Crimea and southern Ukraine unsustainable. Every disrupted convoy, every delayed supply train, and every damaged bridge chips away at Russia's operational efficiency. There's also the broader psychological battle. For Ukrainians, each successful strike brings a sense of agency and hope, proof that their resistance is not just defensive, but capable of striking the occupier where it hurts most. For Russians, it introduces uncertainty and fear, particularly among those living in annexed territories who once felt insulated from the war. The belief that Crimea is safe is fading fast. The strike also raises questions about the evolving nature of modern warfare. We're seeing how technology, intelligence, and unconventional tactics can redefine what's possible for a smaller military facing a larger power. Ukraine has turned ingenuity into an equalizer. using drones, cyber operations, and special missions to offset Russia's numerical advantage. The underwater strike on the Crimean Bridge is another example of that shift war, no longer confined to trenches and air raids, but expanded into new domains. Analysts have noted that this operation could mark the beginning of a new phase in Ukraine's counteroffensive strategy, one aimed at isolating Crimea completely. Cutting off the peninsula's land and sea supply routes would make Russian occupation untenable over time. Without steady supplies, Crimea's economy and military presence could weaken, potentially forcing Moscow into defensive positions or even partial withdrawal. At the same time, this kind of strike carries risks. Russia could escalate its retaliation, targeting Ukrainian infrastructure in cities like Kiev, Odessa, or Lviv. It could also use the incident to justify further mobilization or declare martial law in occupied territories. The Kremlin might use the narrative of terrorist attacks to rally domestic support, portraying Russia as a victim rather than an aggressor. The information war around this event is already intense, with both sides shaping public perception to their advantage. Still, Ukraine's calculated risk appears to have paid off. Even if the bridge remains standing, the symbolic victory is undeniable. Kiev has demonstrated that nowhere in occupied Crimea is completely safe, and that Russian forces cannot take their logistical lines for granted. It's a message meant not only for Moscow, but also for Ukraine's allies, proof that Western aid and intelligence are being used effectively. From a humanitarian perspective, this event also highlights the complexity of modern conflict zones. Civilians depend on the same infrastructure that militaries use, and that blurring of lines creates moral and legal dilemmas. Yet in this case, Ukraine insists it targeted only military-relevant sections, specifically the structural components used for transporting arms and equipment. Looking ahead, the Crimean Bridge will likely remain a focal point of this war, both physically and symbolically. Every time Ukraine hits it, the message is clear. Crimea's annexation is not settled, and the fight for Ukraine's sovereignty continues. Russia can repair, reinforce, and defend, but each repair job is a reminder of vulnerability. In the coming months, observers expect increased tension in the Black Sea region. Ukraine's growing naval drone fleet, along with Western intelligence support, could enable further strikes on Russian ships, ports, and logistical hubs. Moscow will be forced to spread its defenses thinner, from Sevastopol to the Kerch Strait, creating new opportunities for Ukrainian operations. Ultimately, the June 2025 strike on the Crimean Bridge may come to be seen as a turning point, a moment when Ukraine proved it could strike at the very heart of Russia's occupation infrastructure. It showed determination, resilience, and adaptability in the face of overwhelming odds. It reminded the world that even after years of brutal war, Ukraine is not giving up its fight for freedom and sovereignty. This war is being fought not only with weapons, but with willpower, strategy, and symbolism. Every bridge, every power plant, every supply line becomes part of that battle. The Crimean Bridge, once a monument to annexation, now stands as a testament to resistance, a reminder that control, no matter how concrete, can still be shaken. Thank you for watching. If you found this analysis informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more updates as we continue to follow this evolving story. The war is far from over, and events like this show just how quickly the tides can change. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.